do not enjoy being kept waiting.
It was a long drive, Starscream. I'm still picking bugs out of my grill.
Yes, right. You're one of those.
Come again.
Never understood why any self-respecting Decepticon would choose automobile as his vehicle mode when he could have flight.
I like the way I look in steel-belted radials.
In a fictional universe, the author of it may take any measure of license as to what is possible within the realm of the universe he or she creates. Yet, in order to promote prosperity of a world, galaxy, or universe, it must possess certain qualities to give it plausibilities. In short, it must have laws as well as familiar characteristics to its inhabitants. Whether favorable or undesirable, it must either promote feelings of wanting to exist in such an atmosphere, or in the case of most villains we see in comics dealing with galactic matters, a strong desire to watch it burn. Such is the cybertronic atmosphere known as the Transformers universe, where the slogan is aptly more than meets the eye. Leaping over the obvious robotic abilities to disguise themselves as everyday automobiles or aircraft, there is some nefarious duplicity involved within the script and comic book narratives. Traitors. By nature, traitors are more than meets the eye in that they give all pretense of having qualities that appear to be loyal to one cause, while in reality they are in fact spying on their comrades to give the other side the advantage or leverage. Since this idea is as old as even the most ancient of texts, having traitors in your universe realm gives it some level of credence. It is familiar territory. Next is giving believable reasons for the traitors to betray, such as greed. It may be ideology or dissatisfaction with his current station in his order. Let us take the Decepticon-turned Autobot Skyfire. When woken from his frozen state, having been discovered by chance, he was acknowledged by Starscream as a fellow explorer who got separated from him. Upon his revival, he accepted what the Decepticons gave him as the reason for why they were on planet Earth. Unfortunately for Megatron, ingrained in Skyfire's motherboard was a program promoting peace and the preservation of all rights and liberties common to sentient beings. So that it was upon discovering Megatron's plans to rule over, subjugate, and even eliminate the Autobots when his new despot leader, Megatron, deemed necessary. Skyfire's embedded artificial intelligence personality software rebelled. We learned that as he was designated a traitor in the eyes of the Decepticons, he became a member of the Autobots by default. Such are some of the creative concepts behind the manufacturing of this Transformers Prime narrative. Good versus evil means war is inevitable, and wars create, among other things, traitors. Now we come to the point of this episode where we cover existence and duplicity. One traitor in particular, designated Knockout. An oxymoron, or if there ever was one, as he has never been seen living up to his code name's sake. Rather than knocking any Autobot out, he is seen giving cheap shots, both physically as well as verbal. Like Skyfire, Knockout is a scientist, though in different fields. Where Skyfire was an explorer, Knockout is a medical officer, and therefore was designed to save lives and not take them, as soldiers are programmed to do. Nevertheless, his programming seemed to have overridden his primary intended function, as was explained when we first meet the subject of this episode. Knockout was summoned by Starscream to save or repair damaged Megatron. As a member of the Decepticons, we may safely assume that he was familiar with, even supportive of their propaganda indoctrination. Despite being a medtech, he tells Starscream,
I've done plenty of bodywork, Starscream, but I'm better at breaking them than fixing them.
To add emphasis, he procures, with no small amount of enthusiasm, a nefarious tool out of his arm, which begins churning in a menacing, sawing, grinding manner, indicating his pro-civility for violence. It is clear that Knockout takes pleasure in battle, yet, in true Decepticon fashion, is willing to run rather than stand and fight, if there is even a remote chance of losing the battle. Another interesting aspect of this character is that he is decidedly a robotic equivalent of a narcissist, as exhibited by his fixation on his appearance. Thus, he is decidedly more of a prima donna than a battle-hardened time-tested soldier. In episode 11, he makes repeated remarks regarding his finish in reference to his paint job. He makes it clear to both Starscream and his medical colleague that he is proud of his capabilities as an Autobot and repeatedly disregards Starscream's command to not engage in street racing, which he, Starscream, deemed beneath their nobility as superior to the human rabble.
You have been street racing among the humans again, haven't you?
I'm not only an automobile, I'm an automobile enthusiast.
Knockout says in this same episode that he is an automobile enthusiast and is terrified when, as a punishment for disobeying Starscream's orders, he is informed that his punishment will be, quote,
merely cosmetic.
At which point we hear him yell,
No, not the finish. No. Anything but the finish!
and the sounds of mechanical scraping metal on is heard as the scene fades to black and the credits roll. Such levels of cruelty displayed by Starscream are evidence of his capacity to become a future leader in the absence or demise of the mighty Megatron. Another not so subtle hint we get to support his vanity is at the beginning of the episode while waiting for a race to begin. The driver in the car next to him takes a sharp object and scratches Knockout's paint alongside his car door. He remarks,
Big mistake.
Then during the race, he deliberately runs this driver off the road, causing a near-fatal crash off the side of a steep drop. Such malevolence in a character usually lends engaging aspects to a story.
The square root of the propulsion factor equals...
You painted my paint job! Prepare for surgery!
This outburst came when an Autobot named Bulkhead had inadvertently become the receptacle of ancient software that transformed the normally thick-headed robot into a Picasso of knowledge, unable to stop himself from writing out formulas in an ancient formatted language whenever he could use flat spaces as a canvas. In this case, it was on Knockout's gleaming, polished chest. Season 1, Episode 14 has an intriguing moment where Starscream is gloating over a comatose Megatron while monologuing his plans to usurp the Decepticon throne. He is startled to find that he isn't alone. Knockout reveals his presence by way of finishing one of Starscream's sentences. However, Starscream's initial consternation at having been discovered plotting the murder of the Decepticons' leader is set at ease when Knockout makes his position clear to Starscream, that he has no problem with plans to terminate their leader, provided he is elevated to Starscream's second-in-command. Such is in keeping with Decepticon tradition, never fail to take advantage of a fallen leader. Such events provide opportunities for promotion within the ranks. Further examples of Knockout having no issue with duplicitous treachery is in the manner in which he continues to show deference towards Starscream, even after the revival of Lord Megatron. He discovers Starscream is up to suspicious activities, yet does not report his findings to his Lord and Master, Megatron. He appears content to be a repository for Starscream's secrets. In episode 1 of season 2, it is Knockout who has the dubious honor of welding the Decepticon placard onto the arm of Optimus Prime, saying,
Welcome back to the winning team.
It is also clear that Knockout carries some favor or confidence with Megatron, as exhibited by having first-hand sensitive intel from Megatron himself regarding his plans for a now memory-washed Optimus Prime, who has reverted to his former recollections when he was known as a Cybertronian historian designated Orion Bax. Knockout displays abilities to carefully inquire or share his concerns to his master with all the grace and flattery Starscream used, without any trace of skepticism, sarcasm, or disrespect. He appears to excel where Starscream and even his successor, Arachnid, failed when seeking Megatron's approval. Not only does he flatter his master, but gives every appearance of genuinely agreeing and admiring Megatron's plans the way a loyal zealot should view his superior. Ever eager to get under Autobots' metal skin, he mocks them when they arrive to stop Decepticons from destroying a military base. Quick to take advantage of the Autobots' suffering, knowing that a memory loss Optimus Prime was currently under the illusion that he was a member of Megatron's army. Knockout calls after them, oozing with sarcasm.
Aren't you missing someone?
Then, while escaping, gives a partying shot, saying,
We'll be sure to tell the big O you said hello.
Such characteristics are almost always welcomed for comic relief. If there is anything that should be said about the writers of this Transformers series, it is that they definitely get it right. Comic relief at the expense of cowards is always permissible, and in this case was well received in a cartoon format. Starscream is a notorious coward that is also a huge fan favorite, particularly the 80s version of this Decepticon entity. From what I've seen in his many reincarnations, his looks and even voice may have undergone some modifications, yet his hardwired motherboard has perpetuated and preserved its cowardice core, including his instinctive sense of placing self-interest above all else and all others. As exhibited in the Transformers movie, he even shot his own foot in order to escape when he was caught in a trap door. Apparently, self-mutilation is a viable option in order to secure one's future existence. Such is the determination found in cowards, whereas Optimus Prime selflessly declared Megatron must be stopped no matter the cost. The Decepticons will readily agree in their own decree. We must escape and live no matter the cost. There may be no I in the team, but a Decepticon would be quick to point out that there isn't we either. So it is that the dominant noun and first concern must always and forever be me, regardless of the cost. Such credence is prominent in the history of Decepticon CNA. Even in their mightiest warrior and leader, Megatron, upon finding himself beaten by Prime, began begging for his life. So it is no surprise when we see Knockout ditching his fellows in order to save his own paint job. Speaking of his paint job, a topic Knockout never seems to tire of. The writers always find ways to wreck it, in scenes of battle, getting dragged by a subway train, or even when buffing himself up with a final coat, opens his doors to his quarters while bots are battling Starscream clones. Their battle spills into his room and smashes into him. Such comical scenes give the audience a good laugh at his expense. They make it so rewarding by his vanity-driven character build-up. Who doesn't enjoy watching vain characters, and particularly the cocky villains, get scraped from time to time? It is a classic crowd pleaser, and it is most certainly in the case of our current character, Knockout. One of the best statements I've read describing Knockout's character was this one. While not entirely a coward, Knockout also knows a good thing or two about self-preservation. When the going gets tough, Knockout gets going in the opposite direction. He has no qualms with abandoning ship, if only to save his hide, even if it means betraying a comatose leader or deserting altogether. He doesn't get the most respect on the Nemesis, neither. Show him some kindness and hey, maybe he'll stick by your side. Though the Decepticons are supposed to be warriors, there is no shortage of its members who share the affinity to cut and run, if there is even the slightest chance that the battle might just be lost. So it is extremely comical to know that this narcissistic, cynical, often childish taunter who looks out for numero uno first and foremost, and is known to leave anyone behind in the interest of his own survival, would join the Autobots, thus adding traitor to his less than a glorious resume. This is the treacherous Decepticon / Autobot we at this channel are shining the spotlight on. No doubt Knockout is taking his bows somewhere and thoroughly enjoying the attention, of course with the understanding that he deserves it. Knockout transforms his way into existence in the Prime series, an evolutionary step forward in the Transformers timeline, at least in its revolutionary storytelling, missing some of the more nostalgic aspects in characters such as Soundwave, who is apparently soundless, as he is nonverbal in this reiteration of the Transformers saga. Notwithstanding this serious oversight, the liberty granted to storytellers in this millennial era of animation has, in essence, unshackled artists and screenwriters alike, granting them the freedom to tell character-driven stories that not too long ago was unheard of. Now, without handcuffs, the writers have unleashed their creativity, with enough energon cubes to power the franchise into the next Cybertronic era. In their exploration into this cyberverse, universe, the Prime Seasons scripted storylines opted to give new terrain for viewers to trek, aligning with original Autobot moralities, placing Earth's inhabitants above any mechanical agenda. The Autobot code of conduct remains intact, yet now they are working directly with the U.S. government, respecting that it is their soil upon which they as an alien race traverse. Such has always been in keeping with Autobot history, although the writers have perpetuated the Autobot antiquity as setting a moral example to the viewers of the show. They do so with cultivated skills more appropriate to this day and age. The authors of these new Transformer seasons have introduced new players into the arena of robotic warfare, for which true fans are grateful. Even so, they have accomplished this without powering down the classic characters, relegating them to the memory dump landfill. Transformers without Optimus Prime and Megatron is anathema to its optimal viewers and mega fans. To unplug such iconic characters from movies or televised series is to suggest that these galactic titans are rendered unnecessary. This, the writers of the Prime episodes understand to be unthinkable. If this was the case, then new characters such as Knockout would lose much, if not all, credibility. It is the audacity of a newcomer such as Knockout that is forged in his ability to have a Starscream-like disrespect for both legends of Prime and Megatron. Who does he think he is, that he would be so bold as to mock Prime or abandon his own leader in an effort to preserve his own spark? Is to give him legitimate currency with fans of all generations, and lends him more than a few votes in the Transformers Hall of Shame. It speaks volumes of the Decepticon army that a spineless, abandoned ship kind of robotic life form would consider himself worthy of a lofty mantle of second in command. Yet this was the case when an opportunity presented itself to evaluate his status, while scheming with Starscream to pull the plug on a comatose Megatron. A new low in the massive and extensive annals of Decepticons' history of disgraces. Yet, disgrace is not always perceived as detrimental to a Decepticon status in such atmospheric-controlled chaos where treachery is expected, even amongst the so-called loyalist of comrades. Opportunistic betrayals are sometimes rewarded the same way disregarding orders is when the result's conclusion is the rescue of the leader who gave the order. As was the case when Megatron was rescued from certain defeat and destruction when rescued by the newly reinstated Dreadwing, who was commanded to stay with the ship and leave the destruction of Arachnid to him. It is in this type of setting, in an arena of mayhem, that a despicable Decepticon disciple may achieve electronic exaltation. No wonder, then, when even mighty Megatron rose to superiority by treachery, that such methods of overthrowing him are employed by dubious deviants such as Knockout. Though Starscream is the chiefest among mutinous conspirators that have earned him the dubious honor of being the most disloyal in the ranks, he isn't alone in taking advantage of a power grab should the opportunity present itself. Such was revealed in the 80s Transformers movie. Upon Megatron's defeat at the hands of Optimus Prime, Starscream literally lifts his Lord and Master Megatron, carrying him to the side door of Astrotrain in full view of all the so-called army of Megatron, with clear intention to jettison their leader along with others who were severely damaged in the battle. Not one of these among the survival of the fittest gave protest. Instead, keeping to the code of looking out for number one, the rest of those aboard their triple-changer transport Astrotrain, taking Starscream's lead, forced those once comrades in arms, who were now deemed deadweight, were not merely ushered to death's door, but hurtled out into open space, left to drift into oblivion. At which point, to no one's surprise, Starscream immediately nominated himself as Megatron's successor without the pretense of campaigning, but was challenged at once by everyone else in the cargo bay. Even Soundwave, who has, by all accounts, Megatron's most loyal of subjects, insisted that he was more deserving of the mental stating Soundwave superior, Constructicons inferior, as a vote for himself. And Soundwave was the only one who was willing to pick up his fallen leader on the field of battle, while the others not only walked past by, but even over a dying Megatron, ensuring his survival by transporting him into their escape ship. In such nefarious conditions of existence, those proficient in deception find opportunity not only for mere survival, but for ultimate supremacy in the throne of power. Yet this seat of leadership is like that of a pirate ship's captain. At the slightest sign of weakness by the commander, the ship's crew becomes emboldened and an all-out mutiny begins to stir and then boil over. Such has proven the case for the Decepticons within the halls of historic archival records. So it is that those who survive are those who thrive in deceit, betrayal, self-preservation, scheming, opportunistic, numbered among the lowest of Cybertronian scum, with a flair for narcissism. Such has been the focus of this discussion, dealing with the galaxy's most depraved of life forms. The traitorous, despotic Decepticon and abominable Autobot, the self-congratulatory Knockout.